Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am joined by an absolute sweetheart. I'm joined by Tapanga Lang. We actually met through Blue Line when she came to run her pair with me in her move over from Federal Corrections to being a community peace officer. Absolutely slayed her pair as I expected, which was phenomenal. So love that for her. And when I, got to know that she was in federal corrections, we, kind of bonded over our corrections experience. And I said, you've got to be on the podcast, girl. And it's taken us a little while to get our shit organized, but here we are, which is amazing. So Topanga previously was in security, and then she did 2 years in federal corrections working at the Edmonton Institute for Women. And now she's currently a community peace officer in Whitecourt. She's been there for just over a year. And I cannot wait to hear your journey into this and through this all. So welcome, Topanga. How are you?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a busy day today. I'm a little tired, but I love recording. I love doing this podcast. It's literally the highlight of my day when I know that I'm going to have a recording and I know I get to talk to people. I just get so pumped the whole day. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have amazing stories. Yeah. Not to put too much pressure on you and make you feel like, oh my God, now I've got to do something awesome. Okay, so I want to know all, again, I know you through Blue Line. I don't know you really, really well. I don't know your journey really well. I know little bits and pieces of it just because of us chatting and stuff like that. But I want to know, how were you kind of drawn into this? What led you into law enforcement? What led you to this kind of field? And how did you get into it? And what was your journey through it? So fill us in. Tell us.
Well, right after high school, I was kind of lost. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I enrolled in Bow Valley's 2-year diploma, just kind of trying to figure out what exactly it is that I want to do with my life. And during that, they actually had the entrance exam for federal corrections, part of the program, and we had the opportunity to take it. In order to take it, you had to apply for the job. So I applied for the job, took the entrance exam, and then a year later got into federal corrections. I took it because, one, it's a job offer, and two, because I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. Corrections, you do it all inside the wall. You're the first responder, you're doing medical, you're doing fire, you're doing everything. So I know I want to do some sort of first responder, but what? So it's kind of like an easy bridge into it, I guess.
I love that you say that. To me, that's amazing because it is it's everything within the wall. I've never heard of it like that before, but that is exactly right. It really is. It's everything. We do everything in there. We're the firefighters before the fire team gets there. Exactly. We're paramedics before paramedics get there. We're dispatch to dispatch things. Oh my gosh, that is such a great analogy. I love that. And so I also love how federal corrections basically forces you to apply for them by giving you this as part of your class. That's an ingenious recruiting. It's that's ingenious recruiting. That is actually amazing. I'm in awe. Yeah, totally. That's a genius recruiting. Wow. And so what was the application process like? I know it, but I know that our listeners aren't necessarily kind of with it on what exactly the whole recruiting process takes. So walk us through that.
It's a long process. It took me about a year. Mine was a bit longer for some reason. Some people's are 6 months, but 6 months to a year is what I like to say. It also depends if you want to be in a men's institution or a women's institution. Because a women's institution, you're obviously a correctional officer too. And in a men's, you start as a 1 regardless, and then you move up to a 2. So for men's, you have to take just one entrance exam, and it's just your basic reading comprehension type and basic math. And then for women's, you have to take 3 exams. So it'll be your basic, and then it's like this video that you watch and you have to write down what you observed. And then it's like a more advanced, I guess, reading comprehension, just because there's more report writing in a women's or as a CX2. So I did both. And then after your entrance exam, you have a couple interviews. You'll have a psychological test. You'll have a medical test. There's no physical tests. So you don't have to do a pair or anything like that. For federal corrections, it's just a doctor basically signs off and says that you're good to go. And then you have to do a month of online training, and then they'll send you for 3 months of training. So it's a long process.
So why is it that you get to be automatically a 2? And so for our listeners, it's opposite in corrections. So in corrections, a CPO 2 is higher than a CPO 1. In the community, a CPO 2 is lower than a CPO 1. So it's a little confusing, but why is it that you get to go immediately into a level 2 in the women's institution?
Federal corrections, they structured their whole female system very different than the male. I don't completely understand why, if I'm honest, but things are different in a women's institution. So everybody is a CX2, which, as you said, is the higher person. So as that higher officer, you are writing reports, case reports, you're doing security level, you're helping them with programs and stuff. Whereas correctional officer 1, that's kind of more of your base level, like you're just watching posts, you're doing the walks, like you don't really have much report writing to do, and you're not as involved with the offender, I guess. So as a woman, they structured women's corrections that everybody would be a 2, and you would have your own caseload right away. So you'd have 2 or 3 inmates. That was your caseload. You would do their system, everything. And then for men, when you become a 2, you usually have a unit. So you have more offenders on your caseload, whereas a woman, you only have 2 or 3. I'm not too sure why they structured it that way, but it's mandatory that you're a 2 in a women's institution.
That's very interesting. I did not know any of that. That is, yeah, okay. I can see it why, because by the time they opened EIFW, that was like, now we're going rehabilitation. We're going away from punishment model of corrections. We're going into rehabilitation.
Yes.
And so they would have wanted you to be a caseworker, essentially, is what you are. You're a caseworker as opposed to a correctional officer. That sounds very similar to youth corrections. Youth corrections, your correctional officers are the security base. So they're working in admissions and discharge. They're working in central. They're working on response, things like that. And then caseworkers, CSWs, are the ones that are working on the units with the inmates, making case plans, doing schoolwork with them, things like that. So yeah, very similar. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. And I have heard, again, just having people, like helping people through all of the different stages that they go through. I've heard that it is a very lengthy process. I get emails all the time like, do you know how long it's going to take? I've been in the process for a year and a half. Why is it taking so long? So I did kind of expect that it would be a longer process. And then you said you went away to training for 3 months. And so break me down the training that you're going to. That's in Regina. Am I correct?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there.
There's a few facilities. It depends where they want to send you. I went in the heat of COVID, so they had to decrease their class sizes by half. So there was only 13, maybe 15 of us instead of the usual 30. So we went to Saskatoon, and they weren't really quite set up for training, but because of COVID, they had to decrease their sizes. But you can go to also PEI or Ontario, Kingston, which is an interesting time. But I went to Saskatoon. for my training. And you have to start with a month of online training because they have so much information that they want you to know that they make you do a month of online training by yourself at home at your own pace. And then once you get in, the first day you have to write an exam based on all the information you just learned yourself. And if you fail that exam, you're gone. You're allowed to fail 2 exams, and if you fail the same exam, you're gone. So it's interesting. It's kind of a challenge because you're sitting on a computer trying to learn jail. If you've never been in jail, you don't know what they're talking about, and the federal system is it's very intricate. So you're sitting for a month trying to learn this while doing your other job, and then day 1 you write an exam. But I mean, everybody passed in my course.
That's a big, and I mean, like, I think that's, like, again, interesting because, like, you're an adult learner at this stage, right? So it's not like, I mean, some of you guys were coming right out of school, so you're still in that kind of school base, like you're studying and stuff like that. But a lot of people are coming to this as an adult learner, maybe haven't been in school for a while, haven't studied for a while, haven't done online learning,
Right.
like actual real online learning, besides like the 30-minute, upgrading course you have to take for your work on WIMIS or whatever else you have to do that we all click as fast as we can through, right? Like, yeah. So that's very interesting. Wow. And like a zero tolerance, like if you fail, you're done. Wow. Okay. And so then, and I completely forgot that you went through during COVID. So that does change everything too for you, like those smaller classes, that kind of change of things. And so then they're breaking over the 3 months, they're breaking everything down, like how to run a unit, like security classifications, like law, things like that. Are you doing drill? Are you doing fitness stuff? Are you doing, I'm assuming you're doing like conflict control, like PPCT and things like that?
So you're doing all of that, yes, in the 3 months. The problem where I struggle is, again, training is based more on a male institution, and they're very different, female and male institution. So for example, in men's institution, the officers are armed, in female, they're not. So a lot of the training it's revolving firearms, arming a post, how do you disarm a post, warning shots, stuff like that. That's not relevant to me as a woman in a women's institution. So it was difficult to even really learn anything. And then they do teach static posts, but again, in a women's institution, there isn't many of that. In a men's, there are. So the training was kind of mute. And during COVID, you're supposed to be doing fitness, you're supposed to be doing drill. We didn't do any of that. We also didn't have to get sprayed because of COVID. So there was no OC exposure. Like it was yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm lucky in that aspect. But at the same point, it's nice to be exposed to so you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah. It sounds like
the training to give you 2 weeks training. For like women's side, they didn't have somebody able to teach it. So it was mainly focused on the male institution.
That really sucks. Yeah, it sounds like it was more security-based training versus caseworker training. And I would have. So then, what do they do for guys? Like when they get promoted to a CX2, do they go for an extra bit of training on how to write these reports and how to be a caseworker, or is it just like, okay, here's your promotion and off you go, now do it? Like, how does that work?
They have training. Not most people don't take it. You're typically just put into that role and you rely on your coworkers to be able to help you through it.
This is where we fall down, corrections. Hello, everybody in corrections. Anybody that is listening, that is up in management, still there, listen to this podcast. Listen to all of my podcasts where I talk about the fact that we don't get any training in corrections. Holy shit.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And so when you graduate, like, did you already know, like, do you give like you say like, I want to work in Edmonton or I want to work in Alberta, or is it just like the RCMP, or like you can be posted anywhere in Canada, any women's jail?
So during the process, before you even get an offer, they'll actually send you an institution list and you'll pick your top 3. Okay. And then they'll give you a job offer with the institution before you start any training. So you can decline it. They might then give you another institution, or they'll just disregard your application. It's kind of who's doing it, really.
Yeah.
So I put, I believe, Bowden as my number 1, as I'm originally from Calgary. Then I put Drumheller, and then I put Edmonton. So they offered me my 3rd choice, and I took it.
Yeah. Okay. I think you probably, I mean, as much as it was not an amazing experience, which we're going to get into, but I think you probably would have preferred it to working at Bowden or Drum because those are shitholes too.
Yeah.
So, so you kind of almost like got a little bit of a good thing there out of them giving you your third choice. Oh my gosh. Okay. And so you graduate and they say like, okay, here you go. You're at EIFW. Your first day is Tuesday. Ready, set, go. What was that first day like for you?
My first day was horrible, and not not to scare anybody, but first days are bad in general. But I went with one other person, my core mate. She's amazing. But I did not have a vest yet. So we ordered them in core. Mine didn't come in. I show up day one. I'm honestly terrified. It's my first day. I'm in a new city. I don't know anybody. I don't have any vest, nothing. And they're like, okay, go do Medline. I'm like, I don't even know what Medline is. I don't have a vest, nothing. I don't have OC spray because I don't have my code. So I'm like, what? So I'm doing Medline in my winter jacket. It was interesting, but we made it through.
And so there's no FTO program. There's nothing like where they're going to team you up with an experienced officer where you get to go. There's no shadow shifts. There's nothing like that.
So there is. So it's 3 weeks of on-the-job training, they call it. They have on-the-job mentors. So once you go in, you kind of get like one person that's your mentor and they're supposed to check up on you. However, they just throw you on a post with somebody that you're supposed to shadow, but you're basically doing the post.
Right.
And not everybody is a teacher, I guess. So in those 3 weeks, you have to do every single post in the institution a few times. Some people are great and will teach you. Some people don't want anything to do with you. Mm-hmm. So it's not the best way to learn.
Yep. And so again, to our listeners, if you are given a trainee, I would really fucking hope that you would step into that role and accept it and do it well. Because the thing that pisses me off the fucking most is the people that fucking hate training those people. Why am I training this person? That's fucking bullshit. I don't want to train that person. And then also have the fucking audacity to bitch and say, well, they don't fucking know anything.
They don't know what they're doing. Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder fucking why, asshat. Exactly. I wonder fucking why. Yep. I 1,000% agree. When I was a manager, that was one of the things I would say. I would call in anybody that I was giving a new staff to, and I would basically read them right. Again, I tried to pick people that I knew would do a good job and would but sometimes you can't. Like sometimes you have so many new people that you're just like, yeah, oh my God, I have to put them somewhere. Sure. And so I'm just going to put them on a pod somewhere and hope that somebody on the pod is going to take this poor new person under their wing and be like, come with me, little Jedi, and I will show you, right? Like you're just hoping that that's going to happen. Like, yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. And yeah, Medline without knowing what to do.
Yeah. So the advice that I was given before I went there was to basically shut up, listen. If somebody already tells you something that you already know, you say, thank you. You don't say that you already know that. You just say, yeah, thank you. But I just strongly disagree with that because again, it's day one. I'm on Medline. I don't know. Am I supposed to pat this person down? How many offenders are allowed in the Medline? I don't know. Are they allowed in the door? No, they're not. Door control. I don't know. So when you're telling me to stand here, I'm going to ask why, because I literally have no idea. So I can't sit there and say, yep, when I don't know what we're doing.
Yes.
It's a struggle.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I was told the same thing when I started. Like, yeah, you just say, yep, and you agree with everything, whether you fucking agree with it or not. You say, yep, okay, no problem. And then you deduce from yourself after you work that shift, you go back and you think you're like, well, I'm never going to do that way. Or, wow, I really shouldn't have done it that way now that I think about it. Or, oh, wow, I wish somebody had told me that was not the way we were supposed to do it, but they just let me stand there like an idiot doing it. Like, and I would say, honestly, what's even worse is when the inmates say to you, hey, boss, you probably shouldn't be standing there.
Yeah.
And you're like, and then you're like, what? Why?
They're like, hey,
and they're like,
two people are allowed in here. You're like, what?
Yeah. Or they're like, well, because I could get behind you, boss, and then I could get out that door. And you look, and you're like, oh my fucking God. Like, and again, I'm telling you straight up, as a rookie, happened to me a couple of times, and like to this day, thank you, inmates that were like, hey, I'm gonna take pity on this poor new officer And I think it was because I was pretty fair with them and I was pretty like, I would do my best to be like, fair and funny and, make it not awful while they were in jail. But yeah, like I had probably 2 or 3 inmates that would say to me like, "Hey boss, like you should probably not have your back this way." And I was like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And then like, turning around and being like, "Oh, oh yeah, okay. Oh, that makes sense." Right? Like, yeah, but until you've been in jail, you don't know. Like little things like that, like common, like which is now common sense to us, right? Now you've been in, like now you're just like, "Oh, I would never do that. Don't do that. Don't turn your back. Like don't fully close the door," right? Like little things like that. But like when you've never been in that environment, that doesn't register in a normal brain. No, it doesn't register in a normal brain at all. No. So 2 years you did, and you had a caseload of inmates. But like, how did it evolve? Like from those kind of early days where you're just like trying to freaking keep your head above water and just learn as much as you can. What was that like over those 2 years?
Well, I actually didn't have a caseload because in the 2 years, me and my core mate, we were lacking the 2 to 3 weeks of training from core for the woman-centered approach, I guess. So in order to have a caseload, you need to do this woman-centered training, which they didn't give us in core. So we didn't have a caseload, which is a whole problem in itself. But in all honesty, I think because a lot of people who would start, they would get a caseload after a month. They're done their on-the-job training, and now they have a caseload. Well, they don't even know the institutional routine because the routine is different per security level. Like the max, the routine is different. Medium, the routine is different. Weekend, routine is different. Evening, routine is different. So if you don't even understand the institutional rules, it's hard for you to now apply that to a new offender who also doesn't know maybe what's going on. You have to now tell them what's going on. You have to classify their security level. You have to be their guidance when you yourself are still lost. I don't think it's fair to put a caseload on a new officer. In all honesty, I think you should be working at the institution for at least a year because it's a lot to wrap your head around, especially a lot of people who have never even been in the enforcement side of things, who are amazing people, but still, if you used to be a business person and now you're stepping into corrections, you have not a clue of what is going on.
Yeah, I think that too. And like even just like we were just saying, right? The little things that you need to pick up along the way and to get to know how to deal with inmates, right? That interpersonal skill. When are they scamming me? When are they manipulating me? When are they, when is this like a real request for help? And when is this like, oh, I just want to go to medical because the girls are down there at the same time and I want to go see my girlfriend. And when, right? Like, right. And if you don't know that, how are you then supposed to create a case plan for this person who's going to come in and be like, oh, new officer, let me tell you all about how I'm going to be so good when I get out and I'm going to work and I'm going to do all these things. Right. You're fucking not. Right? Like,
no, you're not. There's no way. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, and for you, even more so because you're dealing with 2 years plus a day. So again, for our listeners that don't know, like provincial corrections, they're sentenced 2 years less a day. Federal corrections, they're sentenced 2 years plus a day. So sometimes you're getting somebody that's only going to be in there for 2.5 years, 3 years, little short bit. But sometimes you're getting guys that are guys and girls that are in there for life. They're right. And so that case planning is going to look totally different on somebody that's going to get out in 3 years versus somebody that's going to get out in 6 years versus somebody that's going to get out in 10 years or 25 years or is a lifer. So even knowing like the nuances behind that's a huge thing too. Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. And so so then because you didn't have that course, were you just kind of relegated to more like security based details or what did they have you guys doing?
So that's the thing with Edmonton Institution for Women. So EFW, they're all the posts. There's a couple of different schedules you can work. So you could work the max unit, and that's basically where you'll be most of the time. You can work GP, which is general population, which would be your medium, or you could work the 969 line. So they're 9-hour shifts or 16-hour shifts, and they will be kind of populated wherever. So you get thrown into basically whatever post that they need filled that day, regardless of if you have a caseload or not. So that's also part of the struggle. If you are in a control post, say you're manning the bubble, which mans the secure unit, the max unit, it controls all your doors, everything like that. If you're in there all day, you do not have an option to go talk to your inmate who might be in medium population, and you can't do that caseload. So if your whole stretch of days is set for that, we don't have like a lot of time for caseload work. You just got to make it work, basically. It's challenging.
And so what's the expectation on inmate case management? Is that you're meeting every day? Is it you're meeting once a week? Is it like what is that expectation?
The expectation isn't that high, I guess. So you have to do a 45-day report every 45 days. And basically that report is, what have they been doing? Do they have a job? What is their current pay scale? What house are they currently living in? Have they have any institutional charges? Things like that. You would fill that in on your 45-day report. Unless you have to do a security reclassification, which happens every 2 years, I believe. Or if there was like a major incident, then you might want to reclassify what security level that inmate is at. Mm-hmm. Or if they're SIU, you have to do a reclassification. But it also depends on you as an officer, honestly. Some officers don't like meeting with their inmates. They don't like being involved. They don't like writing the reports. And then you have other officers who love it. So there's not really a daily requirement. It's more of a check-in with your inmate when you need to type thing. And that looks differently per inmate, per officer, which, I mean, if you are joining federal corrections, I think about why you want to join federal corrections. It's very different than provincial. You have the opportunity to sit more one-on-one with that inmate and help develop a correctional plan. If that's something you are interested in, then do it. But if it's not, it's a huge part of the job. So reevaluate what you want to do with your life.
I love that. That's a great piece of advice because I think it's totally true. If you're not in for that case planning, if that is not what you like to do, if that is not what drives you, then that federal is not for you 100%. Even sentenced. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Even provincially sentenced, right? Same thing. There's way more casework in provincially sentenced. They're getting out way quicker. So you're doing more case planning and you're doing, right? Like, so yeah, if that's not something you like, or if same with it, working with the kids, if you don't want to be a caseworker that's working with the kids and making sure that they have release plans and that they're going and their foster care is sorted out and they know where they're going or their group home is, so like, yeah, that's all part of it. That is a huge part of it. And again, I am with you. Like, if that's not your jam, totally fine, but then reevaluate why you're choosing the career. Yeah, totally. So then this is going to come out totally randomly. Like, I'm probably wrong, but like, what did you like about federal corrections?
That's a hard question. Like, federal corrections wasn't for me at the end of it. I did my 2 years. I learned a lot. I met a lot of amazing people. I could not see myself doing that career for the rest of my life. It was draining on my mental health. I started to become institutionalized myself. It's a hard job to do, but I met amazing people that I still look up to today, that I still talk to. And I gained a lot of experience that most people won't get in any other law enforcement job, because corrections is so unique and is so intricate that you learn a lot and you learn quick because you have to. Yes. I loved some of my team members and I hated some of my team members. Some days, like, it's dependent on who you're working with, which is draining.
Yeah, that is, I think, and I actually had done a podcast with a dispatcher a couple weeks ago, and she was saying the same thing. One of the most draining things, and I think it's even worse for a dispatcher, because they are stuck in that room, right? They're stuck. They can't leave control. They're on a wireless. They can get up and walk around, but they can't leave the room unless it's, their time for their break. So if you hate that person that you're working with, there is no escape, right? Whereas similar in a jail, if you hate who you're working with, you're stuck with them. You're stuck sitting next to them on the unit, all day, dealing with them, right? All day, right? Your break is that you get up and go do a round. I remember, and Janice, who was a previous guest too, we would say, we would go out on the unit and spend more time with the inmates because it was better than sitting in the fucking pod with my partner that day. Like, I would rather go and talk to incarcerated individuals than some of the people that I had to work with, 100%. And on the flip side, like you said, also met some of the most amazing, best human beings I've ever met in my entire life that still ride or die friends to this day. So yeah, I completely understand that. And I think, like, as a first job coming into it from school, it's good that you figured it out within 2 years, right? It's good that it didn't take you 5 or 10 or 12 years to figure out that like, this ain't my jam. This is not, I'm not liking this. I'm not feeling healthy, right? But this might be like a really personal question, but how did you figure out that you were becoming institutionalized as well? Was there a moment where you were just like, oh, wow? Or was it just that you kind of recognized that there was factors that were changing in you?
Really, it was just factors. So I moved to Edmonton by myself for the job, and I lived in a basement suite by myself for a year. And then eventually my now husband moved to Spruce Grove so we could live together. So we lived together for the last year while I was in corrections, and he noticed a change. And then he started pointing things out. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. I was honestly super depressed. I was sleeping all the time. I just was not happy. All my hobbies, my reading, my crochet, I wasn't doing them. I was very paranoid. I was very cautious. Even they teach you when you walk up a set of stairs, Kate, first look, make sure nobody's there. You're checking the mirror. You get to the landing. Now you check the next set. I'm doing that at home. Like I'm doing things that I do at work, and I'm bringing everything home. I feel like I'm still being watched. I'm like, it's too much. So I pride people who can do that for a full career. Like, good on you. It just was not for me personally. But if it's something that you are interested in, I strongly encourage that you try it. But you should also be able to step back if you need to, because it's not for everybody.
I think the other key thing with that too is sometimes if you are single and you are like, if you had stayed, like if Stephen hadn't come up and moved in with you and told you that those changes were happening, you might never have noticed them, because I see that now when I see my friends that are still in the jail. I pick up on all those things from them. They don't even know that they're doing it. Like they have it doesn't even, and I remember when I left, same thing, check stairs, never, like you can see me right now. For our listeners that can't see me, my back's against the wall, so I can see everything in front of me. I will never ever sit with my back out. Like I can't. I physically cannot. Like even, it's so funny because I have a couple of good friends that listen to the podcast who aren't in law enforcement, and so we'll go for dinner or we'll go for a coffee, and they will always leave this if they get there earlier than me, which is 99% of the time because I'm late all the time. They will leave the seat that face, because they're like, now we know, Nikki, right? And it's like, thank you. But like those are those little behaviors that you don't even know that you do. You don't even realize that you have like internalized them, and that you're like 100% checking doors, waiting at a not interlocked door, and like being like, why isn't the next door opening? And I'm being like, oh my God, because it's not in a
The amount of times I come home from a night holding my hand up, like, open the door. Nope. You can do that yourself.
Yes. yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I love that. Well, and like again, I applaud you. I applaud you for recognizing and knowing that that wasn't for you. And also, again, like you said, to those people that are in there that are doing it, like we applaud you too, because I was the same. 17 years in, I was like, oh, look, we got 18 to go, and I don't think I'm going to make 18 more of these. So I'm going to pull the pin now, right? And it was a ride for 17. Like it was a fucking ride. It was an up and down and a roller coaster. And there were days I loved it, and there was days I hated it. And like, yeah. So I completely get where you're coming from on that. So then the transition kind of came in a year and some ago when you said, I'm pulling the pin. I'm not loving this. I'm going to try this new, field or this new direction. So how did that come to play? And then what did that kind of look like moving in through that recruiting process and now what you're doing?
Yeah. So basically a year into corrections, I realized it wasn't for me, but I mean, I still have bills to pay. I still need to make a living. But the longer you stay in corrections, the harder it is to leave, because you get your yearly increases. There's so much overtime if you need money. There's so much leave hours. It's hard to leave. So the longer that I stayed there, the more I was like, well, why would I leave? Like, I work half the year. Their schedule is amazing. It was 4 on, 3 off, 4 on, 7 off. How do I leave that, right? So I was struggling to leave, in all honesty. I knew it was probably the right thing to do, but there's so many benefits to it that I just could not pull the plug. And then eventually, Stephen got a new job. And I was like, okay, he got a new job farther away. So his commute's now 2 hours. I'm like, well, we can't have that. So I saw the perfect opportunity to apply to Whitecourt, which was halfway between his job and mine, and I got it. I was super, super lucky to get it. I studied so hard for that interview. I learned in and out what the town does, everything that they offer. My pair, I failed my first pair, bombed it. I think I took like 7 minutes. It was hard. Went back, trained for a couple months, came back, passed my pair, and I got in. And because I did federal corrections, the only training that I needed to do was the 1-week law course. And then I just needed to restart my self-defense. And then I needed to take a 40-hour traffic stop course because there's no traffic stops in corrections, obviously. Did that, and then I was able to get my appointment. I didn't have to go to Seaport, thankfully. That sounds like a horrible time. If I had to do training again, I probably wouldn't have taken the job because the 3 months of corrections was more than enough training. It was brutal.
Yeah, it's totally true. We're running testing right now. There's a Seaport class that's starting in March, and so we're running a bunch of people through testing right now. And they keep asking like, "Oh, what's it like?" And And I'm like, "Well, just get ready. Like, just get ready. You're gonna be tired. Yeah, you're gonna be tired every day, and you're gonna, be pushed to your brink, and you're mentally probably gonna, crash a couple times, and you're physically gonna crash a couple times. But at the end of it, you're gonna have a great job, and you're gonna get out, and you're gonna be able to go do amazing things in the community. So that's awesome that they meet because one of the and one of the other things I on one of the previous episodes we were talking about that I find really frustrating with the government of Alberta is the fact that even though you work within the same ministry, Solicitor General and Justice oversees everything. They oversee all of the Alberta peace officers. They oversee all of corrections. They oversee like everything. Sheriffs, Fish and Wildlife, Border Patrol, or not Border Patrol, sorry, Fish and Wildlife, Conservation, right? Like all of that is underneath government of Alberta. They mandate the training. But if you go from Fish and Wildlife to Conservation, they make you do the whole fucking training again. Like,
I know.
And I just think to myself, like, are you right? Like, are you kidding me? Why are we doing this? This is the most ridiculous thing in the entire world. We are wasting so much money. Just let them do what they need to do. If they need to recert, let them recert. If they're missing evoc, let them do evoc. If they're missing, whatever, like they can do whatever. They don't have to do the whole entire 9 weeks or 3 months or whatever the 5 months sometimes it is, right? Like just let them take the little courses. So I really like that they did that for you. And what, the other thing I love, like you said, you prepared for that interview, you studied, you worked your ass off for your fitness, for your pair. Like again, when you came back and ran it the second time, I was like, damn, who is this girl? Like, get it, which is awesome. And that's something, sometimes we have to do that, right? Sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes you're not always going to be successful the first time. Sometimes you're going to have to suck it up, buttercup. You're going to have to study. You're going to have to work out really fucking hard. And then you're going to have to go back and do it, right? So yeah. I love it. As long as you try, that's all.
Put in the work.
Yeah. And so now being out in the community, totally different role, totally different work. What are you loving about this? What's your day-to-days look like? How does it look in Whitecourt?
It's been such an amazing change. The first few months were a bit challenging because it's completely different environment. You're out in the community, everything's different. What's a bylaw, right? I had no idea what a bylaw was. So now I have to go out and enforce these bylaws. Cool. But there's more training. It's just a completely different environment that I love. Day-to-day changes, depends if there's a bylaw complaint, an animal complaint. We do traffic most of the time in our spare time when we don't have anything else to do. But the thing that I love the most is the community engagement. I did trunk or treat last October. That was amazing, just being able to interact with the community in a more positive light, because law enforcement is seen in a very negative light in general. So just being able to switch gears and just hand out candy to kids is phenomenal. It's just a nice break that I think I needed to not just be so law enforcement. Like we can kind of break it up a little bit and have a bit more freedom and a bit more fun, I guess.
Yeah, we always talk about that with police. Like, we say like the pros and cons of both, right? Like, and that police, you get that it's not all negative. Like in corrections, it's pretty much all negative. Like cons hate you. Like it's just, you're just dealing, and you're dealing only with cons. You're not dealing with the public. You're just dealing with the inmates, right? So it's all the bad guys. That's all you're dealing with is bad guys, bad guys, bad guys, bad guys, and girls all day. Whereas police, you get to go out in the community, and maybe you're not dealing with bad guys all day. Maybe you're dealing with like an elderly lady that is a little bit confused and lost and doesn't know where she's going. Maybe you're dealing with a kid. Maybe you're doing a school outreach day that day. Maybe you're doing a community event, right? Like, so you're getting that positive side. The flip side for police is you're also getting the community that may or may not like you, and they may or may not want to talk to you, or they may call you out, or they may be videoing everything you're doing, or they may be, shitting on you for everything you do. Whereas corrections, behind the wall, like inmates aren't videoing you. I mean, you're being videoed, like you're on camera, but there's no media. There's no outside, like, and nobody's like, I mean, there's judgment on your actions. Obviously, like you can't be a total fucking dick in there, but there's not that public scrutiny where you're going to show up on the 6 o'clock news because you said something slightly off, or, you weren't exactly correct on what you were saying in the heat of the moment or off the top of your head, right? Like, so there is those, and I think also police and like community, you got to go to court a fuck of a lot more than we do, which is also something that I was not a big fan of. I'm like, I don't want to go to court on my days off. Like, I remember the one time I had to go, I was on night shift and I woke up and early and you have to be full uniform with your fucking forge cap on, everything. I was like, oh, I went in exhausted, get there, waiting at the courthouse, and the Crown prosecutor's like, oh my God, did they not tell you? Yeah, they dealt with this last week. And I was like, are you fucking turning? I'm so mad. Because like, it's not like you can just roll out of bed and go to court. Like, you got to shower, you got to make sure you're like, especially
you be prepared. Yeah.
You got to have your fucking notebook. You got to have like, I've reviewed all your stuff. I was like, oh my God, I'm so mad. So mad. And it happens all the time to police. So, yeah, I was definitely like, I'm glad this is not a regular part of our stuff. So the other thing, like you kind of mentioned it too, you get to deal with all these different things. So bylaw, animal control, community events, like, are you loving that variety? Is that just something that really kind of fills your bucket to get up every day and just be like, whew, we're going to go do something different today?
Personally, for me, yes, I think that's what I needed. And I think that's why corrections was just so draining, because it is just negative, negative, negative. You can always have positive, like either you can build rapport with inmates. I used to play Uno with inmates. Like, yeah, sure, there's good times, but it's still jail. They're still inmates. At the end of the day, it's still annoying to deal with. So being out in the public and just, you kind of get to choose your day. Sure, if a bylaw complaint comes in, you deal with it. But it's always a different complaint. It's always something different. It's something new. It's something fresh to look at. And doing traffic, it's always somebody else you're interacting with. It's usually never the same person. Sometimes, but usually you get different people to interact with. The community engagement is just better personally for me and what I needed, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then what are you finding challenging now in this new role? Is there anything that you're like, whew, I didn't expect that, or wow, that's a lot harder to do or harder to learn than I thought it would be?
Going from corrections to the community, it was a big jump, in my opinion, because corrections, you kind of have a way of talking to inmates, right? You either build rapport or, you don't use the best language. That's just how you communicate, though. Inmates get it. They actually prefer that. So when you go out to the community, you can't do that anymore. So it's harder to kind of interact, and it's also harder to even build rapport, because why are you knocking on my door right now? Like, right? Yeah. They don't like you right away. Mm-hmm. So that I find challenging, because at least in corrections, if I needed to go talk to an inmate because I knew they did something wrong and I wanted to go talk to them about it, I could start that conversation off with rapport and jokingly, because we already know each other. I already know how you like to communicate. In the community, it's more professional, I guess. Corrections, you don't have to be as professional. So I found that a little hard to start off with, is that professional aspect of, okay, I need to go deal with this dog barking. What's the best way of doing that? Or this noise complaint, or this grass cutting. What's the best way for me to phrase this? Because it's very different than how I would communicate with an inmate.
Yes, I love that you say that, because it is totally true. Again, not so that the listeners don't think we just like fucking swear at inmates all day long or talk to them in derogatory ways. It's just that you know the slang. You know the slang. You know, like you can roll right into a conversation. It's like this is going to sound terrible, but it's like talking to your best friend, right? You can just get right into the conversation because you've already talked to this person 8,000 times about the same fucking thing.
I've seen it before.
Like, so you can tell them the exact same thing you told them yesterday, and be like maybe a little bit more mad about it because you had told them yesterday.
I told you this yesterday. Yeah.
Yes.
Why aren't you doing it? I told you to stand to count, and now you're not.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
It's just completely different.
Yeah. I also when I was contemplating leaving corrections, and I mean I contemplated a couple times throughout my career, but that was one of the things. And even my coworkers were like, Nikki, you would never last on the street. Listen to your mouth. Like you would never. What are you going to go work in an office with that mouth? And I was like, I could rein it in, guys. And they all were just like, you're sure you fucking do it, right? And it's totally true. Because like even, and to our listeners that don't know, like even when I do my fitness testing, I say to everybody, I was like, and I just want to let everybody know I do swear a lot. It's part of like the preview. I do swear a lot. So if you are uncomfortable, so sorry, but you're going to hear some F-bombs for sure. I might call you a motherfucker while you run your test. It's probably going to happen. Just
you'll get called worse though in the job. So I mean,
exactly.
It is what it is.
Yeah, just keeping it real over here. Oh my goodness. Well, like again, we've covered a ton of stuff. I feel like, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to share before we jump into those rapid fire questions? I just want to make sure that we were able to cover like your whole journey and all the awesome things you've done and the person that you've become. I'm like, I feel like this proud mama bear that's just like, look at my baby. It's just going off into the world. She's doing amazing things.
Thank you. I would say, honestly, I don't mean to sit here and say all the negative things about corrections. A lot of people have had amazing career in corrections. And if it's something that you think interests you and you want to try, please do. But please also be aware of the negativity and the mental health problems and just maybe get in touch with a therapist. I think everybody should be seeing a therapist, regardless of if you're a business person or not. So whatever it is you're doing, if you're a first responder, somebody in business, somebody who's doing nothing with their life currently, that's totally fine. So I think you should be seeing a therapist regardless. And you should know that if it's not the job for you, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. You can step back. Nobody's judging you. That's perfectly fine. But try it if you want to. And if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yes. I think that's so wise. You're very wise beyond your years there, kiddo. Because I agree. It's totally true. It is totally true. And like that whole, like, nobody cares if you leave. Like nobody cares if you quit. Like if you quit, it is what it is. They'll just hire somebody in your place like the very next day. Like, and nobody is going to say to you, nobody's going to say, oh, she couldn't hack it. No, they're going to be like, good for you for fucking putting yourself first and doing what you needed to do for your mental health. Like 100%. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, that's exactly right. And the therapist is, again, it's a piece of advice that has been on this podcast. If I counted, I would say we've done, I think 80, 82 or 83 episodes now. I would say out of probably 75 of them, that's the piece of advice that people give is you should have a therapist or you should have a mental health person because we need it. We need it. You need it. Everybody needs
does.
that. Everybody needs that ability to decompress, say what they need to say, talk to who they need to talk to, and get that stuff out of their mind so that somebody else can process it for them and give it back to them and say, is this really what you were thinking? Is this really how you feel? Right? Is this really what you like? Is this really what you meant to say? Right? So like, yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay. So we're going to wrap up with the fun rapid fire questions because these are my favorite. So number one, I love this one and I can't wait to hear because now you're out in the community. So it might be different. Maybe we'll give you like a two-parter. But what is your favorite food or snack to eat on shift? So we will give you the two-parter. So what was it when you were in corrections, when you couldn't leave the building? And what is it now that you can go in the community and go get anything you want?
In corrections, it was popcorn for sure. Because as soon as an inmate would make popcorn, I would want popcorn. I always had like a whole box of popcorn in my locker because popcorn is just so good, especially on a night shift. You need your popcorn. In the community, I don't really snack much. I guess I'm more of a drinker in the community. I'll go to Timmy's or I'll go get a Monster every shift, but I don't really snack, I guess.
That's good. That's good. I'm with you on the popcorn. I love popcorn. At 9 o'clock popcorn, fuck, boom. When I'm looking at like, oh, there's 2 more hours left in shifts and I'm not going to make it till 11 and I'm dying, make me a bag of popcorn, girl. I am good.
It's
Let's
so
go.
good.
Yes, I totally. Okay. What would be a piece, and you've given a couple, but what would be a piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's looking to either go into federal corrections? I guess we've kind of touched on that one, but maybe looking to go into community peace officering.
Ask questions. Ask lots of questions to anybody that you know in the career and take in as much information as you can and just seriously ask questions. If you don't understand something, please ask.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's true because we go into this and we're like, well, I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to look stupid and I don't want to, but like I tell everybody, I would way rather you ask me the question than get partway through this and be like, oh fuck, what have I done? Or I don't know what I'm doing. And now it's too late to pull back. Like ask the questions. Sure. Yeah. And again, ask the questions before you start because you may find out, oh, wow, I didn't know that was part of this and I don't like doing that at all. So I'm really glad I didn't go down this 3-month training, year-long application process to do something that I really probably wouldn't have liked at the end. So yeah. Okay. And then because now you get to use a bunch of different cool things. What would you say is your favorite piece of equipment that you get to use?
It would definitely be the in-car radar.
Oh, yes. So are you doing like full traffic stop, full like almost like highway patrol, like around Whitecourt then? Yeah. Yes. Okay.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you done where you run and you see how fast you can run? Because I would 100% be doing that with that radar gun.
You know what? I should do that. I haven't, but I'm going to. I'll let you know because that sounds like a lot of fun.
I 100% would be. I'd be like, let's go. Let's see how fast I can go. Yeah, that is good. That's really good. And like, again, just a piece of equipment you would never get to use anywhere else in any other career, right? So yeah, I love that.
Right.
I love that.
It's fun.
Well, yeah, it is. Like I said, it's been a slice. You've been really like a really great guest just on like sharing highs and lows, sharing like really authentically and really like genuinely. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming on and doing that and sharing, all of the experiences that you've had and being really candid in what these careers are like and what's going to be good and what's going to suck. Because I think honesty is the other part of it. Like we can ask questions, but if the person that you're asking the questions to isn't fully honest and they're just giving you the glossy version of the job, it's sometimes then you get into it and you're like, nobody told me about this part. Damn, I wish I'd known about this part, right? But yeah, no, I think you've been really fair in how you've described both of these really cool careers. So thank you for that. Is there anything else that you want to kind of leave our listeners with? Any last words or pieces of advice or anything like that?
I'm not too sure, really. Honestly, I'm an open book. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to me. I would love to answer any questions you have on corrections or the community peace officer world. I will be very honest. So if there's this burning question you have and nobody's giving you an answer, go ahead, reach out to me and I will give it to you.
Yes, I do love it. She is a girl after my heart, guys. So if you want the hard, fast truth, you can ask her. She'll tell you. She'll tell you for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I'll make sure, guys, that I'll throw Tapanga's information in the show notes so you guys can get a hold of her via email or maybe socials or something like that. But it'll be in the show notes if you are looking to ask those questions or learn a little bit more about either federal corrections or being a peace officer. That information will totally be in the show notes. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you so much. And congratulations on your new house that I heard you guys bought. I'm very cool for that. Very excited for you. And all the best in what's to come for you this year. I think it's going to be an amazing year for you guys. Are you guys planning on going to the Alberta Association of Community Peace Officers Conference? Did you guys get in for that?
We're not.
No? Okay, maybe next year because I'm headed there. That's in February. I'm headed there. Yeah, so see if you guys are 2026. It's a great conference. If you guys can go, and especially if both of you could go, you'd have a great time. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Hopefully next
year. Awesome. All right, girl. Well, you take care of yourself.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.